the Instructor Podcast with Terry Cook, talking with leaders, innovators, experts and game changers about what drives them.
Welcome to the Instructor Podcast Short Lessons. In these bite-sized episodes, I dive back into the archives and pull out a nugget of information or inspiration to get you thinking. Today we're heading back to March of 2022 as I'm joined by Lynne Barrie of the ADINJC, Peter Harvey from the MSA and Carley Brookfield of the DIA. Now in this clip we're discussing the relationship that the associations, collectively known as NASP, have with the DVSA. That's an awful lot of acronyms, isn't it? Now I've included a link to the full episode in the show notes and I'd suggest you check it out, as to the best of my knowledge it's still the only time all three of these fine folks have appeared on an independent show such as this. But just before you do, allow me to direct you towards the Instructor Podcast website where you'll find all the previous episodes, a ton of free resources, and more details about the Instructor Premium membership. That's www.theinstructorpodcast.com. But for now, enjoy this short lesson. What is the relationship like between NASP and the DVSA? How much influence do you guys have? Is it more proactive? Is it more sort of reactive? What's the relationship like there?
I think we have a fairly good relationship with DVSA. We've worked with them for years. The trouble that we have sometimes in DVSA is people change, people move on, somebody else comes along, and then we have to go over old ground all over again because, when a new person takes over the department, they don't necessarily know the history, how things went. We work very closely with DVSA. We have contacts with DVSA that, where we have an issue that we want brought up. We do that via the particular contact, and then that gets disseminated amongst the departments at DVSA to come up with an answer. Now, sometimes that's really quick. Sometimes that's really slow. And, we're not going to point fingers at anybody. But, of course, members ask us why it's taken so long to get an answer. Often I think, I wish I knew the answer to that question, because it just takes forever. And, today, no later than an hour ago, we have a questionnaire from one of the associations that's asking something that we've asked DVSA several times in the last couple of weeks and still not got an answer to. The working relationship's very good, just takes a long time to get an answer. I
think that also people think that DVSA is the only stakeholder that we need to speak to. And we often get the, what are you telling DVSA? Well, we don't always go to DVSA. We sometimes go to their overlords, which is DFT. And, we have the ability to do that. Some people who are very critical of what we do. And look, we're open to criticism. We're not saying we're afraid of feedback and criticism, but they're not in the room and they're not doing the job. And when they've had the opportunity to do the job, quite frankly, they didn't do it. They talked a good fight, but they didn't actually talk it when it mattered or walk it when it mattered. And if anybody wants to individually challenge me that, we'll have an open conversation on something like that podcast about what they did, because you've got to be open about what you did and didn't achieve. But Department for Transport is, we have a lot of traction. Not only do we talk to them on a regular basis, we're also undertaking projects on their behalf. So, for example, DIA is involved in a project at the moment called Milestones, which we concepted, which is to run a trial of learning to drive via a series of modules that the ADI will deliver and also assess the candidate on before they can even go to driving tests. So it's being trialed with a view to, in the future, could we deliver all training like that? There's no massive rush to do a practical test. You actually have to go through a few gateposts first before you even get there. And that's only been possible being able to do that work and the industry being involved in that kind of game-changing work because of that traction that we've got with those stakeholders there. So it's not always about going and waving our pitchforks about something at the DVSA. It could be about going, presenting a solution to, a minister or to Parliament even, to try and get a change in our industry or to drive education as a whole, and then be involved in these revolutionary things as well. So I think, it's worth, beating that drum that there are more stakeholders than DVSA to worry about who have influence on our world and our pupils' world. DVLA is another one. Peter mentioned recently, we should be getting more representation with DVLA and getting them to more meetings, because actually quite a lot of the problems the industry faces and pupils face at the moment are licensing issues, the backlog of issuing licensing. And DVSA can say all the placatory things they want to us about how they'll go and speak to DVLA. But, we'd like to speak to somebody from DVLA directly and make them understand what the impact is on all of our membership base and their customers as well. So, and when we sit there and think, like we did at the start of the year, about what are our priorities as NASP, and who should we be engaging with to make sure we can deliver on those priorities, there's other stakeholders that we need to engage with. So that work is something we're focused on this year, as well as widening the group of stakeholders we need to influence and interact with. But if there's anybody you think we should be interacting with that we're not, then speak to us. We're very open facing about what else can we do.
I think it's very much a professional relationship with DVSA. It's quite a good relationship. And we just respect each other and who we are. So when we're in meetings, that's the way the meetings are conducted. And then, of course, ADIs can read the report that comes out later. So I would just say it's a professional relationship. I don't personally feel there's any good going there shouting and screaming. It doesn't work. It never has. It needs us to be discussing and just meeting with DVSA to talk things through, give our opinions, help with examples or whatever. And that's exactly what happens. But it's built on respect, really, because we've known them for a long time. But it is true to say that faces keep changing, and that is something we have to keep up with.
And we don't just speak, by the way, to the people like the registrar, the policy directors, or people like that. We speak to Loveday on a regular basis. And recently, we've also been speaking to their board, who are almost like this shadowy group of figures that nobody really knows who they are. But there's been a better effort to engage with the board of DVSA, so that not only have they got a better understanding of DVSA's customers and stakeholders, but we're able to have a voice with them and tell them what we think they should be doing. And that's about influencing not just the here and now, but they've also been asking us recently, what should DVSA be doing in the future? What should we be focused on? What should we not be doing? And that's been, really encouraging work to have that influence as well.
The Instructor Podcast with Terry Cook, talking with leaders, innovators, experts and game changers about what drives them.